Assalamualaikum everybody, hope you guys are well, inshallah. Hope that you guys are keeping well. It is getting really cold. It was about -2 degrees here in the UK and it definitely was freezing, so I really hope that you're doing okay. I know that there's like this nasty flu going around, so hopefully you're doing fine in terms of your health and all the other matters, and inshallah if you're not, it will all be okay. So in the last video we talked about Yasser and we sat down and we kind of discussed or talked or shared our little Rishta story, which I will link for you here if you haven't watched already. And in that I asked you if you'd like me to share the questions or topics, at least touch upon the topics that I talked about or I thought were important when I was getting married. I think I do want to put the disclaimer out there that I am not an expert in giving advice about things to do with marriage. It's just my experiences or my one-off experience that I had. Obviously, because I'm the oldest daughter at home, I didn't have much help or guidance from anyone. I was just figuring my way out myself. So I did a lot of research and put together a list or topics that I wanted to discuss with my potential partner. And I think there will be many of you who feel uncomfortable talking about these things at home or with your friends. This might be a video where I act like an older sister or a friend who talks you through things that she thinks are important and tries to give you some genuine advice, inshallah. It's not something that I'm saying that this is all you need to discuss. If there is anything else that you feel you need to touch upon, go ahead, do that. Actually, I'd be really happy if you leave more things in the comment section down below, because it will become like a platform or a video where anybody can come and read through and prep for this meeting with their potential partner. It can be a very useful thing, and of course do it with the intention. Actually, I am going to renew my intention right now in my head with you guys that we're only doing this to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and with the intention to help people, because we want to make sure that we're investing in the right things and our efforts are directed towards the right things. Right, without further ado, I think we will get into it now. Very first thing that I wanted to touch upon is your faith and your values, because I feel like one of the most important things for a long-term relationship is to ensure that you are on the same page when it comes to how practicing you are. For me personally, there are certain things that I do, I do celebrate Maulid or Milad, and I wouldn't have considered somebody who doesn't, although I know it is mustahab, which means that if you don't do it, you're not sinful as long as you don't disrespect it. But it's something which is very close to my heart, and I like the fact that around the time of Rabiul Awwal we try to create happy moments and we try to commemorate the stories of the Prophet ﷺ. These things are very important to me, and I didn't want a household where in the future when I have children an environment of that sort is not created, and instead my kids are taught that you are not you shouldn't be happy over the birth of Rasulullah ﷺ. I don't want to go into arguments. There are arguments on both sides, and I respect them, and if you don't, I honestly have no issue with you. It's just my opinion which that I take, and I have done in-depth research on this topic, and I've actually studied from an institute when it specifically comes to this. So I'm not here to teach you anything or to tell you that you're wrong or I'm just not here for a discussion on this topic, but it is something which holds a really close place in my heart, and I wanted to touch upon that. This is just an example, but anything else which you feel is important to you, you want to highlight that and mention that and discuss that. If you want to ask them about prayers, do they usually find themselves praying? Do they prioritize their prayers? Because obviously if somebody isn't praying, is that okay with you if you pray all 5 times a day? This is something really important because it is a fard, so you don't want to end up with somebody who thinks that it's not. People can change in the future, but here we're trying to make sure that we get together with somebody who is ready to step into marriage and not a baby who needs to be taught. There's no harm in doing that in certain cases, but majority of the times it doesn't work out. So I would rather be with somebody who already is on the same page as me, and not somebody who at least understands that they need to pray and is willing and making an effort to be regular in them. Few examples, those are a few examples, but anything else which you can think of which you feel is important to you as a Muslim or as a practicing Muslim, you want to bring that to their attention, and you want to understand how practicing they are, because you want to meet that ratio with them, you know. For example, for me, I wear a hijab and I was getting married in Pakistan, and I know that in Pakistan it's not very common for girls to wear hijab, and I wasn't sure how welcoming somebody would be in terms of me wearing a hijab, although they're Muslims. But sometimes they can feel like, like wearing a hijab in Pakistan is sometimes associated with people who are too strict on religion, although that's not the case. Whereas the people who choose to do it, they are kind of seen as like people who are extreme in their religion. And so obviously I brought that into Yasir's attention, and I wanted to understand like what he feels or things, to discuss what kind of like dress code. I know these things are really small and ridiculous in your eyes. You feel like, okay, it's my dress code, my hijab, but trust me, these things come up later on and they cause issues. So you kind of like want to make sure that you're clear on that page. So you do want to discuss the dress code, like what kind of dress code does he feel his wife should be wearing, not just you, but whoever becomes his wife should be wearing. Is that he won't be okay with you wearing jeans or like tight clothing, which you might do. Then of course that's something to take into consideration, and see like if you're willing to bring that change within yourself, although that's a good change, but it can be a difficult step for many. So you don't want to neglect these things and hope that it will just work out. You want to like touch upon them because they are important. So that is the first topic I would think that you'd discuss. Anything else you feel should be discussed within the faith and values topic, you can definitely like include it in there, but at least you've got a topic to discuss. Number 2 would definitely be your finances. You are not going to be living with your parents. Even if you are living with your parents, the wife is the husband's responsibility in terms of like providing for her needs, luxuries as such, but like at least be able to, the man should at least have enough money to provide for the wife. Is he ready to take that responsibility? I know the woman might be working, like I was working, and that's something that I could do for myself. I still wanted to see what plan he has or what he thinks he should be doing as somebody who's going to be getting married to me. I just wanted to understand what he thinks is his responsibility as a husband. So that's something that you should definitely want to touch upon. Where are you going to be living? Are you going to be living with your in-laws? Is this going to be a joint family, or are you going to be moving out? And if you are moving out, how are you managing your finances? If you are living with the parents, which is of course it's a case with many, how are you managing your finances then? Are you relying on like your father-in-law and mother-in-law to give you money, or has he got a plan? How is he going to sort things out after marriage? Or how are you going to help? How much does he expect you to help? Does he expect you to give your the work that you do, or if you do work, contribute that toward of the house? Does he expect that? Does he think it's your duty? Or if you're willing to do it, you can. If you don't, you don't. These things you want to highlight and understand. Finances, you want to bring that, voice that, and understand like how things are and what you're going to be doing. Number 3, I feel, is the personal affairs. Like anything personal that you feel should be discussed, you bring that to their attention. Like anything that bothers you, anything that you feel needs to be discussed. One thing that I wouldn't mention, or try not to mention at least, is the past. Everybody could have a past, and everybody could have sinned. I think when you're starting a new chapter within your life, what's important is that you ask them like, are you happy to take this marriage forward? And if you are, do you feel that we can leave everything that's happened in the past just in the past and take it from here onwards, and try and make it a beautiful journey for each other in every aspect. The reason for why I say this is because Islamically we shouldn't be exposing our sins, no matter who it is, to. You can mention that, if you've had a past, and it's something that I wouldn't like to discuss, but I would expect commitment from here onwards, because of course it's a relationship which doesn't run without commitment, trust, all of those things. So you do want to mention it, you want to make that statement, but you shouldn't be digging into it. Knowing is not gonna, how is it helping you in any way? If anything, it's going to weaken the bond, because it's going to at certain point in your life haunt you that anything could happen because they were with a certain person. It's just something that you shouldn't go into, and if something hasn't been allowed in Islam, there is always a benefit behind it. So, understand that, and a man and a woman both should understand that, and try to take things forward in the future rather than like digging into the past. To talk about in-laws, especially with a woman when she goes into a new home, if she's living with the in-laws, what kind of responsibilities is he expecting you to take upon? What does he think an ideal wife should be like? Should she be somebody who looks after the whole house and also works, or is he like talking about certain things that show that he's an understanding man who believes in equality and who believes and understands like Islamic values? Islamically, women are not responsible for the mother-in-law and the father-in-law. It's not their duty. However, if somebody does it, if a woman does it, she is one of the best women. She is looking after the parents, and she is basically like doing something that would please her husband. It's a good thing to have, although they can't force it upon you. It's not a responsibility, but you should, because it gets you reward. And it is in another hadith, Prophet ﷺ has mentioned that if you do it, you're like, and you please your husband by doing good acts, you're one of the best women, which is fine. And if your husband is like out there earning for you, earning to provide for the family, like from morning to night, and you're at home, especially if you're a housewife, I feel it's only fair that we contribute and try to create ease for the husband. At the end of the day, you're not competing with each other. You are each other's strength, and you should be standing by each other, if anything. So yeah, you should be willing to do that if you end up with a good person and they are understanding and don't burden you with work, but you feel you do it out of love. That is okay. So understanding like how do they, are they typical in their thoughts, or are they understanding? So discuss something like, what do you do in your free time? Do they like, are there somebody who spend a lot of time with their friends? And if they do they understand that after marriage you would like obviously build a bond and you'd need their time, or things like that, because these are very little things, but they kind of like do bother you after, if the husband doesn't come out of the habits that he has, or the wife doesn't come out of the habits that she has from before getting married. One thing that I would definitely touch upon is helping out with the chores at home. When you have children, at some point, inshallah, you are not going to be able to manage everything by yourself. You will need a helping hand, and that is going to be your husband. It is sunnah for men to help out at home. However, many men in many cultures feel embarrassed to help out at home. They feel like they're not man enough, or they're not manly enough if they help out at home, as if it's something embarrassing to do, especially in front of their family. So you want to discuss that. You want to bring that to their attention. It is part of Islam to help your wife, to create ease for her. Does he understand that? Does he understand that it is okay to help out at home when it is needed, or even if it's not needed, to create ease or to support your partner? It is something that you should be doing, and not burdening your wife alone, especially if she's a working woman. She's obviously working, you're both working. So it is only fair, and it is only feasible if you both then come home and help each other in everything else that needs to be done at home as well, because it'll be quite difficult for the wife to manage everything by herself, and at one point she will become tired and things will become difficult. So you just want to understand what his personality is like in that department. He's like usually an independent man and does things for himself. Hopefully he will be he won't have an issue with that. And many men actually are changing and are different nowadays in comparison to how they used to be, but you can end up with somebody who is a little typical. So you do want to discuss these things and understand how they feel, or what they understand about these things. It's a very big topic, like personal affairs. Anything that you feel should be discussed or is important, highlight that. And I would discuss literally everything, including the fact that I work, and does he feel that I shouldn't be working? Like, if you're a working woman and a man after that says, okay, you need to quit working, just be at home and make me food and just be a housewife, like, you've got a career, you've got a degree, you want to achieve those dreams. Are you marrying the right man, or is he marrying the right woman? If he needs a housewife, if he wants to marry a housewife, you're not the one for him, because you've got a career and you've got goals that you want to fulfill alongside the sunnah of marriage, and that you want to also fulfill your duties as a wife. So there are men who would be willing to marry working women, and understand that women have their goals and they need to achieve them. So like what kind of a mindset does he have in that sense? You definitely want to discuss that. Very, very big topic. So you want to understand what kind of a man he
ये
is.
मेरी शर्ट पहनी है.
I am wearing Yasser's sweatshirt. It's because it was like the only one which I saw, so I was like, I'll just wear it. Then topic 4, when do you guys want to have children? If you were to get married, would you have it like straight after you get married, or do you want to like wait it out and give each other some time and understand each other before you take this step? Are you going to feel pressured by the community around you? Because it's very common, as soon as you get married, it's very common for people to like kind of pressurize you into having children which they are not going to look after. And when do you think you want to take this step, and how many children do you like? Obviously it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you don't know what will happen in the future, but you want to get an idea, right? You want to at least talk about it. How many children do you feel you want to have? Like 2, 3, 4? If he says 7 and you're like willing to only have 1, again, we've got a problem. We're not on the same page. We want to discuss these things. We don't want to hide these things and like encounter them after we get married. We want to discuss these before we get married. I've kind of like touched upon this already, the last topic, which is your residential plans, but I've got this as a separate topic because sometimes a very, very big thing in people's lives. You get married into a joint family. Obviously you go into that family and you start living with them to stay with them the whole of your life. Or is this something that your husband would consider, like would your husband consider moving out after a while when you have children? Like you want to understand what the exact plan is, or is he going to like just be with the joint family for the rest of your life? Especially if you wear a hijab, it is not easy to live with a joint family because every time you get out of your room, you're gonna have to wear a hijab to get out of your room, and it is quite a difficult decision. I like the harder the struggle, the bigger the reward. You get rewarded for making the effort, but it's quite a big decision for you, especially if you're doing it for the whole of your life, for the rest of your life. You will get reward for it, but it's hard. So you want to make sure how you're going to manage these things. You know, you want to have an understanding of it. Are you willing to take this step? Those are the 5 topics or 5 big areas that I would touch upon if I was like I did touch upon when I was getting married to Yasser. At least no matter who it is or how many questions you ask, there is always a risk involved. Like marriage in itself is it's a risky thing. Like when you start living with a person, they could turn out to be a different person. You can't say that these questions will assure that you're marrying the right person, but it gives you a feel of the person. It makes you feel that you made an effort to understand the person, right? But you could still end up like you get married and you find out that this person is not the one for you, and that is a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like marriage in itself can fall on like 2 sides. It can be a blessing or it can be a test. If it's a blessing, it'll go amazingly and you'll be tested in other ways from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But if it's a test in itself, then you'll struggle with the relationship, and it will be like in both situations what you're trying to do is to try and be good in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and try to excel in that. If anything, don't hope that these questions will ensure that you would definitely end up with the right person. These will only help you understand a little bit and get some understanding of the person. And of course, I would recommend doing these over a call with the permission of your family, because texting is just not the way to go when it comes to this, because other person can get more time to think and word their like sentences in a nicer way. But when you're on a call, you understand the tone of their voice, spontaneous answers, so you get a better understanding of the person. In the end, I do want to highlight that you're becoming partners, so it is not a competition. Both sides will have to compromise. Both sides will have to in the end you fall in love. You know, when you get married, you fall in love. So it will be a beautiful journey and relationship, and many things that you feel you can't compromise on, you will compromise on later on, because there is love involved, there are emotions involved, and when you have love and emotions, you kind of are willing to do things for this person. So think about it in that way as well, that maybe like right now I feel I can't do a certain thing, but once you do fall in love with person, or if you like this person, you will be willing to do it. You know, some things you cannot compromise on. For example, the faith you can't compromise on, because no matter how emotionally attached you feel towards this person, you can't compromise on a man or a woman who isn't willing to make an effort for Islam, right? You just shouldn't. You, even if you were willing to, you shouldn't make a compromise on that, because we're not here to stay. We're here for a short amount of time. We're gonna go into our graves. So those things you just can't compromise on. Okay, this video has been useful for you guys, and it's helped you or given you some sort of guidance or support that you might need when you are getting married. It is always, I mentioned that again, is going to be a risk, but inshallah, you know, everybody is blessed with a partner who is understanding, caring, loving, compromising, and you are somebody who is able to become all of those things for them, and they're able to become those things for you, and only then it is going to be a beautiful journey. On this note, thank you very much for watching. Let me know any other topics or advice kind of videos that you'd like me to film, because I actually do really enjoy filming advice videos. I feel like it's one of the best things that I do, because I feel like an older sister, or a sister, or somebody who's giving you genuine advice on a topic which I would have liked advice. So yeah, let me know any of the topics that you want me to discuss, and I'd be more than happy to do that. Thank you very much for watching, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for each and every one of us. Until next time, Allah Hafiz.